Today, we're going to be learning about Ruth. So if you'd like to turn to the book of Ruth, I'm going to be reading from there. If someone was described as a virtuous woman, what would you think they would be like? Our world defines virtue in various ways. However, thanks to God's word, we can see a concrete definition of what it means to be virtuous through Bible characters. One such character is Ruth, found in the Old Testament. Will you turn to the book of Ruth with me? In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man of Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn in the country of Moab. He and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of the wife Naomi. And the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites in Bethlehem in Judah. They went into the country of Moab and remained there. But Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. These took Moabite wives. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. They lived there about 10 years, and both Mahlon and Chilion died, so that the woman was left without her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law to return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the fields of Moab that the Lord had visited this people and had given them food. So she set out from the place where she was with her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go return each of you to her mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with me, and the dead with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband." Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb, that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, even if I should have a husband this night and should bear sons. Would you therefore wait till they are grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, for it is exceedingly bitter to me for your sake. The hand of the Lord has gone out against me." Then they lifted up their voices and wept again, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. And she said, "See, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people should be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do you." And then Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her. She said no more. So the 2 of them went on until they came to Bethlehem, and then they came to Bethlehem. The whole town was stirred because of them, and the women said, "Is this Naomi?" She said to them, "Do not call me Naomi. My name is Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi when the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me?" So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. Now Naomi had a relative of her husband's, a worthy man of the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "Let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after him, in whose sight I shall find favor." And she said to her, "Go, my daughter." So she set out and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the clan of Elimelech. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem, and he said to the reapers, "The Lord be with you." And they answered, "The Lord bless you." Then Boaz said to this young man, who was in charge of the reapers, "Whose young woman is this?" And the servant who was in charge of the reapers answered, "She is the young Moabite woman, who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab." She said, "Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves after the reapers." So she came, and she has continued from early morning until now, except for a short rest. Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Now listen to my daughter. Do not go to glean another field or leave this one, but keep close to my young women. Let your eyes be on the field that they are reaping, and go after them. Have I not charged the young men not to touch you? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels and drink what the young men have drawn." Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner?" Then Boaz answered, "All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me, and how you left your father and mother, your native land, and came to a people that you did not know before. The Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given to you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." And she said, "I have found favor in your eyes, my lord, for you have comforted me and spoken kindly to your servant, though I am not one of your servants." And at mealtime Boaz said to her, "Come here and eat some bread, and dip your morsel in the wine." So she sat beside the reapers, and he passed to her roasted grain, and she ate until she was satisfied. And she had some left over. When she rose to glean, Boaz instructed his young men, saying, "Let her glean even among the sheaves, and do not reproach her. And also, pull out some from the bundles for her, and leave it for her to glean, and do not rebuke her." So she gleaned in the field until evening. Then she beat out what she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. And she took it up and went to the city. Her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. She also brought out and gave her what food she had left over after being satisfied. And her mother-in-law said to her, "Where did you glean today, and where have you worked? Blessed be the man who took notice of you." So she told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked and said, "The name with whom I work today is Boaz." And Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "May he be blessed by the Lord, whose kindness was not forsaken, the living or the dead." Naomi also said to her, "The man is a close relative of ours, one of our redeemers." And Ruth the Moabite said, "Besides, he said to me, 'You shall keep close by my young men until they have finished all my harvest.'" And Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, "It is good, my daughter, that you go out with this young woman, lest in another field you be assaulted. So you keep close to the young women of Boaz, gleaning until the end of the barley and wheat harvest." And she lived with her mother-in-law. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, should I not seek rest for you, that it may be well with you? Is not Boaz our relative, with whose young women you were? See, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Wash therefore and anoint yourself, and put on your cloak and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. But when he lies down, observe the place where he lies, and go and discover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do." And she replied, "All that you say, I will do." So she went down to the threshing floor and did just as her mother-in-law commanded her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. Then she came softly and uncovered his feet and lay down. At midnight the man was startled and turned over, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. He said, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your wings over my servant, for you are a redeemer." And he said, "May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first, and that you have not gone after young men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you ask, and for all my fellow townsmen know that you are a worthy woman. And now it is true that I am a redeemer. Yet there is a redeemer nearer than I. Remain tonight, and in the morning, if he will redeem you, good, let him do it. But if he is not willing to redeem you, then, as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. Lie down until the morning." So she lay at his feet until the morning, but arose before one could recognize another, and said, "Let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor." And he said, "Bring the garment you are wearing and hold it out." So she held it and measured out 6 measures of barley and put it on her. Then she went into the city, and when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, "How did you fare, my daughter?" And she told her all that the man had done for her, saying, "These 6 measures of barley he gave me, for he said to me, 'You must not go back empty-handed to your mother-in-law.'" She replied, "Wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out. For the man will not rest, but will settle the matter today." Now Boaz has gone up to the gate and sat down there, and behold, the Redeemer of whom Boaz had spoken came by. So Boaz said, "Turn aside, friend, sit down here." And he turned aside and sat down, and he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, "Sit down here." So they sat down. Then he said to the Redeemer, Naomi, who has come back from the country of Moab, is selling the parcel of land that belonged to our relative Elimelech. So I thought I would tell you of it and say, buy it in the presence of those sitting here and in the presence of the elders of my people. If you redeem it, redeem it. But if you will not, tell me, then that I may know, for there is no one besides you to redeem it, and I come after you. And he said, I will redeem it. Then Boaz said, the day you buy the field from the land of Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the widow of the dead, in order to perpetuate the name of the dead in his inheritance. Then the Redeemer said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I impair my own inheritance. Take my right of redemption yourself, for I cannot redeem it. Now this was the custom in former times in Israel, concerning redeeming and exchanging. To confirm a transaction, the one drew off his sandal and gave it to another, and this was the manner of attesting in Israel. So when the Redeemer said to Boaz, buy it for yourself, he drew off his sandal. Then Boaz said to the elders and all the people, you are a witness this day that I have bought from the hand of Naomi all that belonged to Elimelech, and all that belonged to Chilion and Mahlon. Also Ruth the Moabite, the widow of Mahlon, I have bought to be my wife, to perpetuate the name of the dead in his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brothers, and from the gate of his native place you are witnesses this day. Then all the people who were at the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your house like Rachel and Leah, who together built up the house of Israel. May you act worthily in Ephrathah and be renowned in Bethlehem. And may your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, because of the offspring that the Lord will give you by this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And he went into her, and the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. Then the woman said to Naomi, blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a redeemer, and may his name be renowned in Israel. He shall be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you, who is more to you than 7 sons, has given birth to him. Naomi took the child and laid him on her lap, and became his nurse. And the women of the neighborhood gave him a name, saying, a son has been born to Naomi. They named him Obed, the father of Jesse, the father of David. Ruth led a very godly life. Boaz said in Ruth 3, verse 11, and now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you ask, for my fellow townsmen know you are a virtuous woman. This shows that Ruth led by example. Everyone in the town that she lived in knew that she was a very virtuous woman. This shows how influential Ruth was. Today, I'd like for you to consider very specific reasons why Ruth could be described as a virtuous woman. First of all, Ruth was a very loyal and loving person. She showed that she cared for her mother-in-law by acts of selfless love. The book of Ruth begins with Ruth and Naomi losing their husbands. Next, there is a famine. That is what leads Naomi to want to move back to her homeland in Israel. Ruth could have stayed in Moab, but in Ruth 1, verse 8, it says, but Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, go, return each of you to her mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and me. And in Ruth, verses 1, 16 through 17, it says, but Ruth said, do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything, but death parts me from you. This shows the love that Ruth had for Naomi. She was willing to stay with Naomi until she was dead, because she loved her. Loyal people are dependable people. Ruth was dependable, even in the hard times. Secondly, Ruth was not afraid to get her hands dirty. In the scriptures, she was a very hard worker. She worked hard for her and for her mother-in-law once they arrived in Israel. In Ruth 2, verses 2 through 3, it says, and Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after him, in whose sights I shall find favor. And she said to her, go, my daughter. So she set out and went and gleaned in the fields after the reapers. And she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the clan of Elimelech. And in Ruth 2, verses 15 through 17, when she rose to glean, Boaz instructed his young men, saying, "Let her glean, even among the sheaves, and do not reproach her. And also pull out some from the bundles for her, and leave it for her to glean, and do not rebuke her." So she gleaned in the field until evening. Then she beat out what she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. Gleaning is hard work. Gleaning is dirty work because you are in the field all day, in the hot sun. After being out all day in the hot sun, Ruth would have separated the wheat from the chaff, and the wind would have blown the chaff into her skin and made her even dirtier. Yet she was not ashamed to do hard work. In the scriptures, it says that she was going out into the fields daily and gleaning the fields for her and for her mother-in-law. It is a virtuous thing for someone to work and provide for their family. In the New Testament, Paul wrote in 1 Timothy 5, verse 8, "But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for the members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." A person who refuses to work lacks virtue, but a person who chooses to work displays virtue. A truly virtuous person is willing to work. Thirdly, Ruth was also a very grateful person and recognized that she didn't deserve any of the special privileges and the mercy. So when she does receive them, she is very grateful. One example is in Ruth 2, verses 8 through 10. Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Now listen, my daughter, do not go to glean in another field or leave this one, but keep close to my young woman. Let your eyes be on the field that you are reaping, and go after them. Have I not charged the young men to not touch you? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels and drink what the young men have drawn." Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to them, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner?" It says in the scripture that she fell on her face. In the old days, that was known as a sign of extreme gratitude and or a sign of awe. She was grateful for the privileges that had been given to her, and in our world today, we have many people who feel entitled to privileges. They feel like their parents owe them cars or a college education and more. We people who feel like the government owes them free money, paid off student loan debt, and all sorts of benefits. Instead of complaining about our parents and our nation, we ought to be thanking them for what they have already done. Ruth was thankful for the kindness Boaz provided and did not expect more. This indicates her humility. Thankful people are humble people. Paul once wrote in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 2, "But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, and unholy." Based on this description, it would seem we are living in perilous times now. Many are selfish, boastful, disrespectful to parents, and unthankful. Yet, like Ruth, we can stand out in this world if we will choose to avoid complaining and start being grateful to others for our material blessings. Fourthly, Ruth was also willing to receive instruction. We see this in that she follows the advice Boaz had given to her. In Ruth 2, verses 8 through 9, "Then Boaz said to Ruth, 'Now listen, my daughter, and do not go to glean in another field or leave this one, but keep close to my young women. Let your eyes be on the field that you are reaping, and go after them. Have I not charged you, the young men, to not touch you? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels and drink what the young men have drawn.'" What Boaz told her to do, she did exactly that. She was willing to follow his instructions that he had given her. We also see in multiple instances where Ruth takes advice from Naomi, such as in Ruth 3, verses 1 through 5, it says, "Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, 'My daughter, should I not seek rest for you, that it may be well with you? Is not Boaz our relative, with whose young women you were? See, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Wash therefore and anoint yourself, and put on your cloak, and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. But when he lies down, observe the place where he lies. Then go and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do.' And she replied, 'All that you say, I will do.'" This shows that she was willing to receive helpful instruction from anyone. She always followed their directions accordingly. You cannot help a person who is not willing to listen. Virtuous people are obedient people. No, this does not mean we obey unrighteous instructions. However, we ought to be willing to listen to valuable teaching, the teachings of God, the instructions of godly parents, and the teachings we may hear from preachers of the Word of God and older, wiser Christians. In Titus 2, Paul tells older men to be teaching younger men, and older women to be teaching younger women. Good young men and women are willing to listen to spiritual mentors and take their instructions to heart. Ruth was not a know-it-all. She knew there were areas where people in Boaz and Naomi knew better, and she respected it. Ruth was also a very influential woman. The Bible speaks about how everyone in the town had heard about her good deeds. In Ruth chapter 2, verses 10 through 13, it says, "Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, 'Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner?' But Boaz answered her, 'All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me, and how you left your father and mother in your native land and came to a people that you did not know before. The Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given to you by the Lord, the God of Israel, whose wings you have come to take refuge.' And she said, 'I have found favor in your eyes, my Lord, for you have comforted and spoke kindly to me, as though I am your servant, but I am not one of your servants.'" This shows that all the people in the town knew of her and knew of what she had done for her mother-in-law. There's an old saying, bad news travels fast. Well, conversely, sometimes good news travels fast as well. Ruth's good character had become well known. Jesus wants us to be people who are like him, a light to the world. In other words, our light needs to impact and influence the corners of darkness in our world. Like the sunrise in the morning, which sheds its light for miles, we need to be people who impact our communities and worlds for good both near and far. Christians should have a good reputation in their own homes, in their neighborhoods, in their workplaces, and in the local church. We do so when we build our character on the teaching of Jesus and begin to embody him in our lives. We need less people making the front pages of papers because of bad news, and more people making the front pages because of good news. Now, in conclusion, let's notice one final thing about Ruth. Ruth was a picture of what the body of Christ is supposed to be. Boaz is a picture of Jesus in the Old Testament. Boaz redeemed Ruth from her pitiful estate by buying her back into his family and giving her an inheritance. Likewise, Jesus redeems us with his blood. He saw we were lost and hopeless and estranged from heaven. So he came to earth and showed us kindness we did not deserve and died on a cross so we could be redeemed and a part of his family. Ruth was thankful that Boaz bought her back. We should be thankful that Jesus was willing to buy us back with his blood while we were lost and estranged from him. So today is my hope this lesson has helped you remember that what it means to be a virtuous woman. Yet I also hope it has reminded you of how thankful we should be about our Redeemer, Jesus Christ, who has made it possible for us to live with our hope. Come while we stand and sing.